Everybody, welcome to another edition of, I can't say that, I just launched into the bullet. Hey everybody, we're just starting the process of recording for the Polite Society podcast. This is going to be show 625, and we're just getting all the I's dotted, T's crossed. I think my staff has been just on top of the ball, and we're ready to fly, aren't we, guys? All right. In that case, I need to stop what I'm doing up there. And I need to hit the Masada U button in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. And I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Everybody, welcome to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, the 27th of June, 2022. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and on tonight's show, we'll talk with Patrick Collins about being a gun foodie.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about the great win in the Supreme Court.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about why you need standard capacity magazines, or as you folks in Free America call them, magazines. So climb aboard,
strap in,
and hang on.
Episode 625 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, it's Monday night. It's 6 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, the only time zone that matters. That means it's time for Polite Society Podcast. Rob, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been able to ask you this. What you been up to since the last time we've been on the air, man?
Well, yes, except I was with Eye on the Target Radio last night, and you produced that show, so
yeah,
sort of, it's been hours. I recorded another episode of Self-Defense Gun Stories. I was going to record with Bill Frady on his nationally syndicated radio show, and I got the dreaded phone call an hour before we were going to go on the air. Not a medical issue. Keep breathing. He goes, you know how your computers do auto updates? Mine did it, and now none of my broadcast software works. So I'm tempted to just take a hammer to my computers, but for the grace of some fluky software engineer, go, you were right, Paul. I had a lot of sympathy. John, what have you been working on?
Well, I've just been working and blogging up a storm. Tons of news, you might say. And other than that, it's just summertime and the living is easy.
There you go.
Hey, Charlie, you've been out in California.
Yes, I have been to California. I was in Southern California for about a week. I was there with hanging out with John Petrolino and his family. He was doing some vacationing, or they were doing some vacationing, and I was doing some working. We went to the San Diego County Gun Owners Gun Prom a week and a half ago, and John was awarded the Media Figure of the Year, which was really cool. I filmed a few episodes of Riding Shotgun with Charlie with some of the Gun Owners Radio guys. I made some new Second Amendment friends out there, which is awesome. And for the last month or so, I haven't been doing a lot of classes. I've taken a class. I had to speak at an event. I had the trip to California, so I have not been doing a lot of instructing. So, Paul, how about yourself?
Well, let me switch over and start with Susan. It's been a minute since you've been on the air. What have you been up to?
Not much.
Okay.
I've been working a little bit on AmCon, trying to get some people lined up for that, and I started a new job.
Okay.
So that's about it. Trying to keep people in line. That's a full-time job in itself.
There is that. On my end, I've been Susan. When we were down at the NRA show, Susan won me a car CM9, and I have been trying since we got the thing to get it's got what I call the Glock 43 issue. When you hold the firearm, let me get my hand up here. When you hold the firearm, it comes to about there in my hand, and so my pinky and half of my third finger, really don't get a very good grip on the gun. I've been trying to get an extended magazine for the thing, and I'm not going to name the company I've been dealing with, but it's a well-known company. I placed an order on the 15th of June. They said the magazines were in stock, and they would be shipping in the next few days. Well, as of this morning, nothing has happened. I understand that a lot of people in Washington State are ordering 30-round magazines. I understand that, there are some other issues in other states, and there's a lot of people ordering standard capacity AR mags. I'm not quite understanding why that means they can't ship regular capacity handgun magazines, but it is what it is. So today I went to the car company and I ordered some of their 7-round magazines. We'll see if they have as long of a wait as this nationally known warehouse. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to name the company because I'm not ready to throw them under the bus yet, but it's about that close. I'm going to be... Go, Charlie.
Those extended magazines, man, they'll get you in trouble every time.
And that's it, man. I'm going for the extra capacity. Actually, what I'm going for is the ability to hold the darn gun. Is what I'm going for. The extra, the one extra round, that's kind of nice. But the ability to hold the darn thing so that I can control the recoil is really what I'm going for. Other than that, I am scheduled to do a little bit of training myself coming up the beginning of July. Believe it or not, I'm going to be going to get my South Dakota enhanced permit. I'd been sticking with the South Dakota regular permit, the one that costs $10, and you go down to the sheriff's office. It takes a week, but you get reciprocity with like 25 states, whereas with the enhanced, it's like 40. But I've been holding off because starting July 1st, South Dakota has zero cost for the enhanced permit. So being the tightwad I am, I held off. I'm going on the next week. I go to get my I go for the training for the enhanced permit. The training's like $100, but that's the only cost for the permit is the training. The fingerprinting, the background check, all that, the state of South Dakota covers the cost for. Governor Noem, God bless her, said you should not have to pay a penny to exercise your rights in the state of South Dakota. And I love her for that. So that's kind of what's up with me. What I'd like to do, we've got patiently waiting in the wings. We've got Patrick Collins, the Gun Foodie, is waiting for us to get to him for his interview segment. I'm going to step aside, and as we're in break, I'm going to get social media hooked up. By the way, you can comment on either the Facebook or the YouTube channel, and we'll discuss your comments while we're live on the air. If you've got a question for Patrick, get it in there. We'll get to it as we're in the interview segment. Right now, we're going to let you hear from ACLDN. We'll be right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tueller, and led by network president Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, we are back, and joining us, as I teased before we went to break, is Patrick Collins from the gunfood.com. Patrick, thanks for joining us tonight, man.
Hey, guys, for having me.
Let's get started with this. Before we get, because we could talk to you about all kinds of different things, but the reason I asked you here and what I want to get started with is, could you tell us a little bit about the gunfood.com and tell us why you decided to get into the ammo business?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So I was a competitive shooter, and I'm a formal instructor as well, NRA certified. And basically, I got into selling ammunition because I ran into instructors that needed it, and I was sitting on quite a few rounds, and then the ammo crunch happened. And luckily, I had a decent amount of ammo so that I could, essentially give it to the instructors. And I started to sell about 10 to 15 cases a week. And I said, wait a second now, this is a bit much to kind of hide from the government per se. So I had to make a formal business out of it. And been a network of ammunition supply, as well as my network of instructors and police officers from around the country. And we sell to 48 out of the 50 states, and everything is great with the company.
Very cool. So I'm guessing one of the states you do not sell to is California because of their background check requirement for ammunition. Guessing the other one maybe New Jersey?
No, believe it or not, actually, New Jersey has been my customer. And I do sell to California, but it has to go to an FFL. The two states that I do not sell to would be Alaska and Hawaii because of the shipping rules.
Okay. That does make sense.
Yeah.
So how long have you been operating the gunfood.com?
We are well into our second year, so we'll have third year in November of this year. And it's really, really great business as well, even with the pickup of online sales. Now that ammo is a little bit easier to find for most people. I do recommend checking out the site. We ship everything insured, which differentiates us from some of the other sites, as well as it ships basically the same day. So when you order it, it's already in the mail, like pretty much. And the other benefit of us too is that everything that's listed on our website is in inventory, in stock, ready to go right then and there. You don't have to wait for me to receive my data so that you get a small piece out of it.
Very cool. I'm going to open it up to my staff here. Anybody have a question for Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick, do you... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, as a startup business, did you find it hard to have ammo companies working with you? Did they want to work with you, or they said, well, we don't know you? Or how did that go?
So I have been doing speaking. I've been an instructor. I've taught all around the country. And you're right. It was hard to break through that initial, well, why do you want my ammo for a discounted rate or wholesale rate? And I had to prove it, and I'm still proving it to this day. There are plenty of ammunition companies that won't sell to me direct only because they don't think I'm a legitimate, business per se. And I just continue to knock on their doors and try to win their business.
Very good.
All right, Rob, you had a question you were coming up with.
Yeah, I was basically going to ask the same thing. If he actually touches lead and brass, or if he just remarkets And it sounds like, yeah, you're as legit as they come.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I am partnered up with a couple of remanufacturers as well, especially during COVID when folks couldn't go to these businesses in person. I just said, hey, if you guys want, I can rep your brand, I can rep your ammunition, and it's all semi-spec factory reload per se. And I help them out as well by being a non-hired sales agent as part of their business.
Right, and we got a question coming in from Gerald over on the Facebook side. He wants to know, what makes your ammo preferable?
What makes my ammo preferable? That's a very good question. Well, so I have shot hundreds of thousands of rounds through competition. So I've been through some of the good stuff and I've been through some of the bad stuff. I have personally tested a lot of the ammo that I do sell, including some of the factory ammo, but most of our ammo is tested and shot by me. I typically, either myself or I have 4 members of my staff that help me consume ammo per se, but everything has been tested, so I can almost guarantee, I can't make a 100% guarantee, but I can almost guarantee that if you buy ammo from us, it will work.
All right, very cool. Dana over on the YouTube side says, I can't wait till the end of July to hang out with Patrick at the LAID Ladies Shooting event. That's going to be up in Detroit the end of July.
Yes, that's a great event put on by Rick Ector.
Yes.
Really good event up there in Detroit, and looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely, and hopefully he'll quit giving Charlie a hard time this year, because, you know.
Probably not. I want to say that I purchased some ammo from Patrick, and he ships to occupied territory, and I got it with no problem at all. And I bought some of the Gun Food ammunition, and it works just fine. I haven't had any issues at all with it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we have TFG branded ammo. TGF branded ammo, and it is. To be honest with you, that's what I shot in competition. So going through 2,000 rounds a month for 18 months, you know, I've shot quite a few rounds. It works.
All right. So let me ask you this then Patrick. Being a competitor, you do go through a lot of rounds. Were you primarily competing in handgun? Were you 3-gun? What was your competition?
USPSA was my competition, so primarily the handgun rounds. I did not pick a specific caliber, so I shot both 9mm and 45, and it was a lot of fun. Went through many rounds.
Okay, so did you? How do I put this? Through your competition, did you already have a relationship with an ammo manufacturer you were able to start with when you started the gunfood.com, or was everything from scratch?
I mean, everything was from scratch. Just gathering the amount of ammo, at the beginning was from scratch. So gathering the amount of ammo that was needed to shoot in the competition. We're talking about 500 to 600 round counts, guaranteed for the, but you can't just go there with the exact amount thinking that you're going to hit and just go through 400 rounds or 4 rounds. So I would show up with approximately 600 rounds each competition, 3-4 weekends. That's what you have. But I did establish a relationship with a couple of local suppliers. I am here in the great state of Georgia, the great free state of Georgia. We have quite a few ammo suppliers here. Ran into some that are really good and ran into some that are okay enough. And we just started, when I started the company, I started repping the ones that really helped me through and getting and purchasing ammo. So, yeah.
Very cool. I want to get this one up here quick. Charlie, Simon says, Train says, the reception Charlie is getting from Utah looks great. So.
my gosh!
For those who may not tune into the Bullet, that is that's a reference to last Saturday's show on the Bullet. We were ribbing him a little hard.
Which was a reference to something we did a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
You guys are relentless. Like, you guys really have a memory like an elephant. Holy moly.
All right.
Patrick, as an instructor in Georgia went to permitless and constitutional carry this year. Do you see an uptick in people taking classes?
Actually, I do, and not just your typical person that wants to train, but I'm talking about new shooters. The new shooter uptick in the students is just amazing, and I'm glad for it. I wish more people would go and take classes, but it's a great thing. There's quite a few new students that are jumping in, asking questions too. That's the other thing too, is that we're not just a company. The Gun Food's not just a company that's trying to sell you a product. If you call me and ask a question about ammunition or ask about training or is this firearm good or not, I can give you the tips and tricks that will get you a little bit further along the line than your standard other company, which is just there to make a profit.
Yeah, and one of the things whenever permitless carry goes through in a state, quite often we'll hear, and I specifically remember this from Texas. We had pushback from some trainers. Well, we're gonna lose our business because we won't have this revenue stream coming from people that have to go through training to get a permit. And what I've heard from you and what I've heard from a few other people is, and specifically when Utah did the same thing, is there may be a temporary downturn, but after that, the demand for training goes up, and the profitability of the training you're able to give goes up, because when you're giving state level specific training for the Georgia permit, for the Utah permit, or the Arizona permit, whatever, that the profitability on that class is low because you got to give specific information. It's all crammed in. Whereas when you give a general self-defense course, you give what information they need, and you can expand on it much better. The profitability of the trainer goes up.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that do that.
Let me ask you, going back to the ammo supply, the Biden administration is talking about forbidding the Lake City plant in Winchester from selling their excess, quote, excess ammo that they produce. How will that impact you and other ammo distributors if that does go through?
That's a very, very good question. They say, well, if they can't chop our head off, we'll at least take the food away and they'll starve you. And that's one of the attempts that they're trying to do right now, as you had mentioned, is they are limiting civilian purchases of ammunition by 30%, and that's a huge amount. That's going to impact the cost of ammunition. Just like same thing with gas. If we throttle back our supply, the price is just going to go up. And it's a scary thought to have, knowing that the government is going to intervene in this case and artificially create a demand spike and a supply shortage based off of their ruling.
This is maybe a little bit off topic, and if I shouldn't know, or if it's not public knowledge, feel free to say it's not public knowledge. There is a lot of imported ammo that is sold in the United States. I know you've got some domestic suppliers, and you resell some domestic factory ammo. About what percentage of your ammunition right now is domestically produced as opposed to imported?
That is I've never really thought about it that way, but that's a very good question. I would probably say, maybe 10% is the external, or truly, let's just call it like, the Russia, the Turkish, the unique countries that provide us with ammo. But I tend to stay at those countries only because the sourcing of it really makes a difference. For instance, you don't know if the ammo deal that you're getting a distributor or a warehouse, if that's been sitting in a warehouse for 30 years because of a civil war that happened 30 years ago, or when they thought they would need it and now they're just selling it as overstock. I don't tend to sell a lot of that type of ammunition, strictly because you really don't know where it's really been or where it's coming from. It could be in a wooden crate, placed there from some war some time ago. We just don't know. So.
One more, when we're coming up on when we got to run to break, but one more question I have for you then is, obviously you carry 9, 40, 45. Do you also get into some of the more esoteric calibers, some of the the not so popular calibers?
Yes, we do. We see a lot of the ranges locally, as well as some of the ranges in some states that have a little bit of difficulty sourcing ammunition. So we have a whole bunch. We have 350 plus SKUs. We're nearing 400. I can't wait to cross that 400 mark. But 350 SKUs, different ammo, all different calibers, all different bullet types, weight, all that fun jazz. So yeah, we have quite a few out there.
All right, and we've got about a minute before we go to break. Anybody else have a question quick?
Yeah, Charlie,
go ahead, John. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to, when you mentioned Russia and Ukraine, etc., and Turkey, the 7.62 by 39 used to be the primary source of it. Are you having trouble getting either domestically made or imported from other countries? In the 7.62 by 39?
So with the 7. Yes, I'll just call them AK rounds to make it easier. Yeah. But the 7.62 AK rounds, we have a little issue with the good Russian 7.62 rounds. However, that supply chain is starting to come back a little bit. A lot of ranges sometimes don't allow that steel round to be used, only because they recycle the brass and they get paid for any shell casings that hit the floor type of thing. We also carry brass as well. And everything that I carry has been tested, but we are running into some domestic suppliers as well for both steel as well as the brass for that round in particular. So we did run into a little bit of a shortage, but we're back on track now.
Very good.
And then last question as we go to break, and I do want you to hang out for one more segment if you would, Patrick. But last question as we go to break. You do ship by the pallet if it needs to be, right?
Absolutely, yes. We do ship by the pallet. That's 125,000 rounds, by the way.
All right. Folks, we are going to step aside to break. We're going to hear from CNJFO. We will be right back with more from Patrick right after this.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
All right, we are back with Patrick Collins from the gunfood.com. This, again, is the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Patrick, we see you at all kinds of gun rights events. As we mentioned coming into the interview at the first segment, I've seen you at the NRA show. I've seen you at Gun Rights Policy Conference when we had the Florida Carry had their speakers event a year and a half ago. I seen you down there. So you are absolutely a gun rights guy as well as being in the ammo business now. And one thing I want to go into a little bit with you is, if I could, Georgia just this spring got constitutional carry, and being our man on the ground down there, there's not any blood running in the streets, is there, in the Atlanta area?
No, crime is and he is as usual. No, there's not any huge uptick in crime because of the armed individuals or armed good individuals that are out there. You still have your crime, but it's not an uptick per se.
Oh, very cool. What have you got? I mean, I know you're going traveling up to Detroit the end of this month. Have you got any other traveling on your schedule coming up in the near future?
Well, actually, this past weekend I spoke at the first Georgia NRA State Conference. I was on a panel with Willis Lee and quite a few other folks there. The DC Project was represented there as well. A very good discussion with the crowd about how to better engage with the new 2A community. And that was a great opportunity, and I was looking forward to it, and it really went really well. Then we have the ladies training event up there in Detroit. Looking forward to that. And I have a couple of private instructing classes that I'm doing here local to the state of Georgia with a couple of actually celebrities coming up too. So I'll be able to announce that happens.
That's very cool. I often say that the way we're going to continue expanding our gun rights is to bring new people into the fold. That's part of the reason I became a certified trainer, is so I can continue to teach and to bring new people in. And and honestly, if you can bring in people like celebrities who have reach of their own, I think that just multiplies that.
Yeah, you gain a lot of understanding, and you help educate them, and it really, really works out. I remember doing my first celebrity because I didn't know at the time that he was a celebrity, and it was a great experience when he called me up, random number, said he wanted to take a class, took him in there, and after the class, he looks at the gun counter and he says, "I want that one, that one, that one, and that one." And I said, "Whoa, 4 guns at once. Okay, this guy is someone." And while he said, "Do you mind if you stick around, or you mind sticking around while I fill out all the forms and purchase these?" I said, "Yeah, that's not a problem. I'm here to help you. I want you to learn." Lo and behold, he did a huge post about it. Well over, I think it was 4 million views on the post. I mean, it was, yes, I was hit up by every single one of his friends. Was hit up by quite a few celebrities after that, and it just really snowballed into a huge thing. I'll never forget it, and I'll always be thankful for him.
And you didn't get your head blown up so big over that you had room that you couldn't talk to the rest of us. So that's good.
Patrick Collins, the gun instructor of the stars.
Yeah. So I do have a couple of celebrities that are coming up here fairly shortly. First couple of weeks in July, I have them scheduled for. So
very cool. Okay, I'm going to open it back up to my guys again.
Yeah, Patrick, you mentioned that you are getting some of the newer shooters coming in. Is there any? I mean, are you seeing more women, more minorities, more urban versus suburban getting involved in shooting for the first time, or is there any trend at all?
I mean, honestly, there is not a trend, because the way I market my training experience is just through word of mouth per se. Now, of course, I come recommended after people do take my courses, but for the most part, I'm seeing a lot of folks that you wouldn't normally expect to be to carry. single mothers, is a growing trend that want to protect their children and also want a little bit more capability when it comes to protecting themselves at their own home. The other group that I'm also seeing is minorities, of course, are starting to grow, and they're starting to learn properly instead of just having. And what my course does in detail is it actually goes through the use case, it goes through the mindset, the mentality, and all the important aspects that are just not hit in your standard, 4 fundamental rule coursework.
Very good.
When you had the idea to start the business for the Gun Food, what kind of things did you need to do? Because when you were telling me about this, I'm like, hey, wait a second, that might be a cool, second passive income. Not necessarily that it's passive, but it might be a little nice way to make some extra scratch.
So that's another great question. Of course, I had to get my business license, EIN, and all the fun jazz. Here in the state of Georgia, in order to sell ammunition, you do not need to have an FFL. And I was partnered up. I was already in contact with multiple different ranges, who I was, because I am an instructor, right? I'm a traveling instructor. And so going into the ranges and just saying, hey, you guys have known me for quite a few years. I'm starting this company. Would you like me to keep your shelves full? Of course, they would agree to it. And it's just snowballed into now I'm supplying about 18 ranges in the local Atlanta area. I have 3 or 4 police departments right now, and a couple of ranges that are out of state as well, which are really, really cool because I have the closest dealer. I shouldn't call them a range; they're a dealer, but I have the closest gun dealer to New York City.
Oh, very cool. And that's I'm expecting with the Supreme Court decision we got last Thursday, there's going to be a demand for ammunition going up in the New York City area. Yes. And that's something I'm looking forward to. Now, of course, New York City is different than New Jersey. This particular dealer is in New Jersey, but they are the closest to New York City. They are the closest to Manhattan, downtown New York City. Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. This time just screams by. I'm going to open up to my guys for one more question. I think we're going to go ahead and go to break because we do have it. Believe it or not, we got news to talk about this week. So,
I just want to say, Patrick, I thought it was great to have you be part of the fashion show at the NRA annual meetings that Amanda Suffolk put on with the Realize FAC. That was really cool, and you went out there and laid out a couple of dance moves, and it was awesome, man. You did a great job.
I thought he was pushing a lawnmower. I didn't know that was a dance. Of course, that again, today's music, who knows?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun being up there doing the fashion show, and anytime you guys want me to help out, I'll definitely put on any type of equipment to help display different ways of carrying a firearm.
All right. Well, Patrick, thanks so much for taking time out of your evening to talk with us, man. Love talking to you, and I can't wait to run into you in person later this month again, or later next month.
Yes. Well, close enough. But I will see you guys, or most of you guys, later on.
Folks, we are going to go ahead and step aside to break. We're going to hear from JPFO. We'll be right back with our news segment right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
And welcome back. This is the news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Normally, Susan reads the news. However, I think we're going to get about one topic in today. On Thursday, we finally got the decision we've been waiting for out of the Supreme Court in the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. We were hoping that when the decision came that it would be written by Justice Thomas, and it was. We were hoping that we would get a favorable opinion. We did. And we were hoping that we'd get some kind of guidance on the future, what am I trying to say? The
standards of review.
Standards of review. And we did in a big way. And so, in my opinion, we got about the best we could have hoped for out of the court from this decision. They weren't going to go ahead and say, look, constitutional carry is now the rule throughout the United States, but they did say that may issue is no longer constitutional. So that's what I got of it. Who wants to chime in? I'm getting crickets.
I'll go ahead and throw my oar in the water. I think they knew that this decision would be resisted in the seven states that are may issue. So they said, look, you can have a permitting process. That's okay. But it has to be objective. It has to apply equally. What was fascinating is that California said, yeah, you know how we were asking for good cause, just drop that out. But then they started proposing a bunch of other things, one of which was good moral character. And I go, as long as you can measure it accurately and you're not violating it by the government employees that you let carry, because what moral character used to mean was a euphemism for moral turpitude, like if it would get you disbarred as a lawyer, defrocked as a judge, or they'd take away your stethoscope if you were a doctor. Short of that, hand over the permit.
Go ahead, John.
In other words, you're not acting like Hunter Biden.
Right, like cocaine and hookers. Yeah, so we'll stop there.
What I'm worried about is California is going to say you have to have good character. Well, if you're an NRA member, that means you must not have good character. So,
well, but again, they repeatedly said the word objective. Not that you can measure it, but it is objectively measurable that indicates violence, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
that doesn't. Now, being old, bald, and ugly, maybe it does. Yeah, see?
It's not a crime yet.
In California, not well. How about the Commonwealth, though, Charlie?
Oh, please! I think I saw someone, a local friend, post today that nothing has changed here in Massachusetts. We do have a female attorney general, and she got her knickers in a twist about everything that happened on Friday. So there's part of me that thinks, I was messaging somebody, and he's like, "Hey, the decision on Friday is going to bring everybody back to not having a red wave like we were anticipating." And I started thinking, I'm like, maybe that's going to be a good thing, because then we can have all the gun stuff while while the other issues out there and people are worked up about that. Then maybe we can just slide by and get a couple of get some more states to be okay with things.
Mm-hmm. And I was kind of surprised that New Jersey and California kind of rolled over so quickly. Though I did read a really good article on the California good moral stuff by Eugene Volokh, the Volokh conspiracy. He's also a UCLA law professor. He said California needs to be really careful on that, because they're going to be running into, if they ask you, are you a racist or not? Well, that's a First Amendment issue. It doesn't, he says there was a lot of stuff that they're going to be asking that they're going to just lose automatically on First Amendment grounds or very closely, which I thought was very interesting.
Well, my issue with the calling people a racist is it's certainly become easy to do over the last couple of years without having any hard evidence. And one of the comedians I like to listen to, he's been saying for the last 2.5 years, he's like, hey, it's never been a better time to be a racist because everybody's a racist.
Yeah.
So it's, okay, so what is it, what is it to, what's the threshold to be a racist? Do you have to burn crosses in people's yards? Do you have to have a white suit, or do you just have to not have any black friends? Like, what's the threshold for that?
I want to, if I could.
Paul, let me pitch one thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead. Cue up the questions from the audience, I hope. What was the comment? This is not the beginning. This is not the end. This may be, as somebody goes, it may be better than what Churchill said. It may be better than the end of the beginning. It may be the end of the middle. I thought, wow, that's dicing our progress very finely. But I really enjoyed all the analogies, and that's true because there's still church. The way that they should make law to a law now means church carry should be there, stadium carry should be there, caliber and magazine quantity restrictions should just fall quickly. But we'll see how conniving the courts are. John, you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah, there's still 4 cases that they have not decided, that they haven't even turned around and said, okay, in light of what we just ruled in Bruin, we want you to look at this. And it's a carry case from Hawaii, Young versus Hawaii.
Right. Yep.
You have 2 magazine cases, one from Jersey, one from California, and a modern sporting rifles case from Maryland that the 4th Circuit used to be a good circuit. Now it's not so good, and I live in it. Where it's not an exotic weapon, and they haven't said, okay, you decided this on a 2-part test, send it back to review in light of what we just said. That could come this week. It may not. We don't know. But they haven't denied cert either. So
the thing that I like about that test, John, is how do you frame the question? Okay, did ordinary citizens at the time of the ratification of the Bill of Rights, were there laws that were in place and acted upon that restricted civilians to weapons substantially inferior to those carried by the military? Not only no, but hell no. Mm-hmm. Oh, whoops. What you gonna do now?
I want to jump in real quick, and one of the things, starting this, the decision came down 9:30 Thursday morning. By 9:45, we had legislatures in New York, California, Hawaii, New Jersey, ramping up to try to restrict rights down as far as they could. And I want to throw a little bit of a plug in for my boss. If you go to saf.org/join-saf, I strongly encourage you to do that. As you can see on your screen right now, it's $15 for an annual membership, $150 for a lifetime membership. And that price is unbelievable to me. But we need your help because we're going to be in lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit to get these restrictions overturned. And believe me, they're going to be overturned. We need your help to do that. We need membership. I'll be very honest with you. We need your money to help drive these lawsuits forward because lawsuits aren't free. And even if the attorney, as they often do, donates their time, there's still a lot of cost to put a lawsuit forward.
Yeah, I want to add on to that. big law or the mega law firms, they give so much pro bono time, not to us, but to the anti-gunners, to the gun prohibitionists. They defend the cities that have onerous restrictions. They help defend the states with bad laws. And they do it for free because, gun control is good. And we have to stop violence. But our side, they don't give us that. Or very rarely, let's put it that way.
Well, and even when we get some pro bono work, for example, the lawyers that worked for New York State Rifle and Pistol Association were told, excuse me, were told by their firm this week, yeah, thanks for being with us, but we don't like your clientele. So, see ya.
Go. I've spoken too much. Please.
I was just going to say that this is, to me, it sounds like the cancel culture, and we're against the cancel culture until we're for the cancel culture, and we do things as well. Like nobody shops at Dick's Sporting Goods because of the stuff they did a couple years ago. So it's just that law firm. Okay, well, you don't like our clientele. Okay, loud and clear. So you made a boatload of money off us, and yeah, we'll go our way.
The bad news is this didn't solve all of our problems. The great news is it told us how we might solve a lot of our problems, which is why SAF, NRA, firearms policy are going to be really, really busy. So before, where it was nice to give, yeah, thank you. Now it's urgent.
Yes.
The faster the more zeros you put on the check, the more we can do to make things right.
Absolutely. I want to get a couple comments in here. Rob Adams, they're talking about a bill to raise the amount of justices. Hopefully that cannot get traction. I agree. They've been talking about packing the court, and with the decisions Thursday, we're not going to, there was a decision Friday that's so far out of the scope of what we talk about, we're not going to mention it. But with Thursday and Friday's decisions this week, yeah, that's back on the front burner. They want to expand the court to however many justices until the constructionists are in the majority again, or in the minority again. I am right there with you, Rob. I hope that doesn't get any traction. If there is a bill or anything that hits, believe me, watch here or watch for the bullet. I will let you know, and we will jump on it very quickly.
I think this is something I didn't understand when I was a young kid, and I honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't know the difference between Republicans and Democrats, and I still can't remember which one's an elephant and which one's a jackass. But I always thought it was interesting that I was like, well, we can have a Democrat, and then we'll eventually get a Republican, and when the Democrat's in office, things are going to be the way that they want them, and then when the Republican's in office, he's going to do the things that he wants to do, and the Democrat's going to come in, and they're going to undo the things that Republican did, and then the next Republican's going to come in and undo the things that the Democrat did, and it just seems like it's constantly a pendulum that just swings back and forth, and I think for the last several years we've had a lot of things get a little out of hand and a little crazy and a little out of control, and things become a little more conservative, and people start to reel their actions and their activities and their thoughts in a little bit. That's okay. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Want to get this one in here real quick. Ray over on the Facebook side says New Hampshire governor signed a law restricting new federal gun law enforcement in New Hampshire on Friday. That's good news. We continue getting good news. As I mentioned early in the show, we have a couple of good gun bills coming in on July 1st in South Dakota. and there are going to be good gun bills that through the states are going to be happening. We've got some bad ones we've got to fight, especially now, like I said, starting Thursday at about 9:45, 10 o'clock in the morning, the legislatures have been ramping up. California and New York specifically are going nuts. But we're going to have some fights, but I generally believe, guys, I don't mean to sound Pollyannish, I generally believe we are on a winning streak, and we're going to continue that way.
What I think lets us see that we're going to be on a winning streak is I think something John mentioned earlier, is how quickly New York and New Jersey and California caved on stuff. Like I saw people write on some New Jersey Facebook pages, I know pro-gun stuff, obviously. They say, all right, well, listen, you know what? We're taking away the justifiable need, which is great, but they started doing it on Friday. You know, and I've seen a lot of people say in New Jersey that what they should absolutely do is flood them with applying for permits.
Yeah.
Well, it was great to read stories of gun ranges in New York and New Jersey, even not so many in Massachusetts, Charlie, where people were calling and saying, "Can I apply for my permit?" And they go, "No, maybe soon. Stay tuned. We'll call you." So times are changing.
I'm a big fan of the Gun for Hire podcast, and I've been listening to it for 10 years. And Anthony Calandro had Dan Schmutter on a couple weeks ago on his show.
Sure.
And Dan was like, he's like, hey, listen, when if this goes in our favor, and this was a few weeks ago, he's like, if this goes in our favor, it's not going to happen quickly, and we're still going to have to sort things out and figure everything out, which is a good thing, what the process is going to be. I was listening to I think I was listening to Anthony's podcast today, and they were talking about how they don't have a software or a program or a way to process everything.
Yeah.
Well, could you say that another way?
They weren't prepared. What it really is they weren't prepared for things to go our way. That's kind of how I see it. Like,
because that software, I mean, I know 43 states that could loan it to them.
Huh.
Right.
But I think the creators of that software may be a little upset if they do that.
Right.
Maybe not.
I know 25 states that it could probably work really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, does anybody know, for example, in New Jersey, the training requirements? I know you hang out in Jersey every now and then, Charlie.
Yes, and I have this discussion often with John Petrolino. You have to take some sort of a training class. So and that really seems to be all there is. It's got to be some sort of a training course. I don't know if it requires live fire, but it's got to be some sort of a training course. In Massachusetts, we have, I think, 25 or 26 classes that are approved classes that the state says, if you take this class, it's okay. If you don't take this class, it's not okay. And we have two different types of licenses. We have the firearms identification card, which is good for non-large capacity rifles and shotguns. And if you're a Boy Scout, if you can still call them Boy Scouts, but if you're a Boy Scout and you take an NRA basic shotgun class, then you can't apply for the license to carry. And the license to carry allows you to have large capacity and non-large capacity rifles, shotguns, and handguns. Rifle, shotguns, and handguns. Yeah. So if you, I know. So home firearm safety covers covers loading and unloading for all of those. So that's good for the FID card or for the license to carry. But in New Jersey, to me it seems like you've just got to take some sort of a safety course, and this is kind of how John Petrolino's book Decoding Firearms came about. He put a little pamphlet together and said, okay, what should somebody need to know if they're taking a handgun class? And so he's got a workbook for people that do classes with him, and he parlayed that into his into the big book of Decoding Firearms.
Paul, one other thing I want to say. Again, because they said if we're going to issue licenses based on an objective standard.
Yes.
And if you go back to the 1790s, there was no two-tiered system where, well, politicians can carry in public, but you can't, which describes New Jersey, California, Maryland, Hawaii. Whoops. So that should stop in a hurry. Because I can imagine what I would, if we had so much money we didn't quite know what to do with it, we start suing, saying, "Wait a minute, you gave permits to them. I'll tell you what, even if you won't give them to us, just repeal them to all the legislators and ex-politicians." That's me being vindictive.
Yeah.
So to answer Dana's question,
go ahead, Charlie.
Just to answer the question. Just to answer Dana's question real quick, it's not small capacity, it's non-large capacity.
I know we talked a lot about Bruin, but we need to say a little something about the, quote, Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which got signed Friday or Monday.
It was signed Saturday.
Okay. Before he went overseas.
Yeah.
To make a fool of America again. You didn't hear that. It seems to me, reading through some of the stuff, I have no problems with putting extra money in for mental health. I mean, I don't think anybody does. But it almost seems like it's adding a waiting period for those who are under 21 to buy any firearm. Yes, I think, okay, if we do take juvenile stuff into account, but it does sound like there is now a waiting period for them. How a romantic relationship, does that include sex or non-sex? I mean, how do you define it in terms of, well, they've had a romantic relationship and she got a restraining order because she was mad at him because he didn't take her to a nicer restaurant, and now he can't buy a gun, for 5 years?
Yeah, this closing the boyfriend loophole is the most dangerous thing that's coming out of that, and that's that to be quite honest, what they're trying to do is to get the states to expand red flag laws so anybody you've ever dated can.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think if you look at how they're now defining a gun dealer, it is a backdoor effort to do away with private gun sales.
John, to back up half a step, because I'm slow and it just now sank in. In the Bruin decision, they said this is a full right. It's just like the right to face your accuser in court, which was one of the examples they used. And I went, oh, whoops. So red flag laws that are ex parte, meaning I'm not even in court, they just telegraphed really strongly that ex parte gun confiscation is unconstitutional. We still have to get the ruling.
Right.
I think you're right on that. But now they change, going back to what I was saying about FFLs, instead of a requirement for an FFL is that you had an intention to be in the business to build a livelihood. Now it is you have a profit motive. Okay, if you have a gun and you bought 20 years ago and you're selling it now, are you really going to try to sell it for a loss? You want to make a little money just to keep up with inflation. Nobody said, oh, I just bought this new gun. I think I'll sell it for half the price I just bought it for.
Yeah.
John, are you saying that a lot of people would get swept up into the government demanding that they get an FFL due to inflation, basically?
I'm saying that they not only would get swept up, they wouldn't be given an FFL, but they would be considered dealing without a required license and therefore would be liable for very large fines and or jail time.
Wow.
Go to your average gun show. There's always one guy that's trading all the time. Trading up, whatever, but he's going to be impacted.
Okay.
All right, well, let's do this. Go, Charlie, go.
If we need to take a break, we can. That's cool.
We're going to DGUs next, so do what you're going to do.
Gotcha.
Bud.
All right, so I messaged Petrolino, and I asked him about carrying hollow points in New Jersey, and he said, carry, no. You can possess it at the home. You can possess it at the range. You can take it to the store, to and from the store, and you can take it home. You can take it home and it says possess in the home, at the range, and to and from the store, to the store, home, and range, but you can't carry it, carry hollow point ammo. And he said that moving with a hollow point, I think this is what we talked about in the bullet, moving with a hollow point was a no-go. So Evan Knappen explained it to me and said if you have hollow point ammo, the day that you're moving, you have to tell your significant other that you understand there's a lot of business going on. You're selling one house, you're buying the other house, a lot of checks, a lot of money. You've got to stop at the range to get rid of your hollow point ammo before you go to the second house or your new house.
Wow.
Yeah, and he also says no class for the FID or for the pistol purchase permit, but training is required for the CCW, but there's no outlined class.
Because they never issue them before Thursday.
Right.
That too.
Right.
All right, let's do this. We are late for break, and we've spent a good amount of time on this. I do want to get to break because I do want to get out of here at the bottom of the hour. We're going to go ahead and take a break. We're going to get to our defensive gun use segment, the other side, right after we hear from the complete combatant. Right back, right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
And welcome back to the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Before we get into that, I got one quote I want to put up, or one comment I want to put up on the screen. Michael over on the YouTube side says, quite frequently during the Revolution, the Patriots militia outgunned what the Redcoats carried.
Yes, sir.
We need to get back. I want to be able to openly carry my M60. Yeah. So anyway, this is the defensive gun use segment of the Polite Society podcast. I got to get my disclaimer out of here. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Susan, our first one is out of Wisconsin. And Susan, your microphone is muted because I hear you in the other room, but not in here. And I still don't hear her in here. Huh. Let me check up here. have her there on Maine. I don't know, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start reading because I can hear her reading in the other room, and I don't know why she's not coming through. But at 12:10 a.m., police responded to a call of burglary in process in an Ingleside home, Ingleside, Wisconsin, by the way. The 34-year-old suspect had broken into the victim's car, which is parked in the home's driveway. In the car was a garage door opener for the home. He used the opener to raise the door and enter the home. The victims were in bed when one of them heard someone inside the home. The father noticed the intruder entering the bedroom of their baby. The father decided he would not allow the intruder to do any harm and held him at gunpoint until police arrived. The suspect is now on probation from a previous burglary conviction. He's being held on $100,000 bond. If you've got a garage, put your car in the garage. Your golf clubs and stuff can sit outside. But especially if you're carrying a garage door opener, or please, please, please lock the door between the garage and your house. Rob, you got some stuff up in show notes here. What do you think, man?
Right, we covered this on Self-Defense Gun Stories, so I'm glad you picked it up too. Obviously, lock your doors. The other side is you have children in the home, and of course, even if you did this, the news stories would never mention it. So how about a bedside firearm safe, rapid access, 4-button, boom. That's part of firearm safety, and the guys who teach it will tell you. Okay, there are two of you. It's awesome. It's much safer because what would be great to hear from behind you is, honey, the police are here now. I think you should put the gun down on the ground, as opposed to don't move, coupled in the same voice over the top of the other one, drop the gun. Because now you go, okay, who do I believe? So they can negotiate that exchange of you being in control of someone to the police being in control of the entire scene without you inadvertently turning around and getting shot.
Absolutely. John, you're in show notes.
Before I go to my comment, I was going to say I second what Rob was saying about the bedside gun safe, and also the fact that he talked about one with buttons. I think buttons are easier to manipulate, and you don't have the problem of showing a fingerprint. They work sometimes they don't. Buttons will always work, and that's why I got what I got. I had one for the car that used my index finger. Half the time it worked, half the time it didn't. But they didn't realize the intruder was in the house. Well, they didn't realize they had an intruder until he was actually in the house. I'm just going to say I'm glad our garage door is so noisy. It squeaks all the time. I would have heard the criminal before he actually got in the house. But I'll also second the lock the door to the garage that Paul said. I mean, I'm slack about it. My wife is not. She locks it every night. I'm real good about the front door. I mean, I go out the front, in the front door, I lock it. But the garage door, she's much better at it than I am.
I would say the other thing out of this story, I would strongly encourage you to get professional training. If you're holding somebody at gunpoint is a lot more complicated than just reading the words off a page. You really need to get training, especially you've got 2.5 pound to 3 pound weight, and I'm going to back off the camera here, to hold it out like this it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes for the police to get to you. There are techniques, there are things that you can do to make your job easier. Get training and get advanced training, please. Worked out for this guy. Hopefully he had advanced training. But there are ways to do it.
I was going to say, 2 to 3 pounds, that's just assuming he had a pistol.
Yeah.
If he had a shotgun, you could be 7, 8 pounds.
Yeah.
When you add in that flashlight, whatever.
Absolutely. So.
Right.
Charlie.
It's not always the weight of the gun, but it's sometimes how long you have to hold something.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Susan, do you have a microphone yet? No, she doesn't. Because I heard her again in the other room, but I don't hear her in here. So, I'm going to take us to Salt Lake City, Utah. And why do we need standard capacity magazines, especially the ones that hold more than 10 rounds? 5 people broke into an apartment with the goal of robbing 2 brothers who resided in the apartment. One of the 2 brothers had been communicating with a female who was adamant to see him. Police say she was pretending to be romantically interested so she could get in the door and then let the others in. The brother told the police he was hesitant at first but gave in and invited her to the apartment. Shortly after her arrival, there was a knock at the door and 3 men entered. A 4th stayed in a car. 2 of the new arrivals pulled guns from their waistband. They pointed their guns at the brother and started yelling at him. He did not understand what they wanted, and they proceeded to physically assault him by punching, kicking, and pistol whipping him. A short time later, the other brother arrived home and recognized the woman was a former girlfriend. He then saw the other pointing guns and recognized one of them from a youth group home. He rushed that man and tackled him, but not before getting shot in the chest. The 2 brothers fought with the others and were able to take a gun away from one of the intruders. Shots were exchanged between the intruders and the brothers newly acquired armed with the taken gun. One of the intruders was killed in the exchange. 2 brothers then ran from the apartment and got lost trying to get to a hospital and had to flag down a car. A second car with one of the intruders who had been shot was found and he was transported to the hospital. 4 surviving intruders were charged with aggravated burglary and aggravated assault. No word on any charges with the 5th intruder's death. I'm going to say on this one, there's more to this story. You can tell. I'm thinking there was something else involved there. Rob, you're up in show notes.
Yeah, often if you are a felon, you're committing a crime, someone dies in the commission of that crime. Even if you were not the person who killed them, you didn't necessarily press the trigger. The fact that you were committing a crime led to their death. It's called felony murder. It's typically charged in cases exactly like this. I don't remember the ages of all the perpetrators. Maybe they're trying to go light on them. I don't know that that's a good thing.
Yeah, and in Salt Lake City, Utah, that's not exactly New York City. They've got real prosecutors there.
Yeah,
you would think they would that they would be going for that charge. I'm going to say this is another example of one of the big arguments of why you don't need a gun is because the bad guy will just take it away from you and shoot you with it. Well, here's a case of they took the bad guy's gun away and shot them with it. I think that's more common than the bad guy taking your gun away and shooting you with it.
Well, I like to say as the guy living in occupied territory, I always encourage people, not that I'm pro-gun or pro-Glock or anti-Glock, but I always tell people to get a Glock and get a pre-1994 high-cap magazine because bad guys have friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
I put this up, I don't know, a few months ago. I put it up on my Biz Facebook page, and I actually ran into someone, and they said, "Hey, listen, I saw you that you say you should buy a Glock and get a high cap magazine." And he's like, "I sold 2 guns, and I completely did that." And he's like, "I now have 1 high cap magazine for an older Glock." I'm like, "Dude, that's pretty cool."
Wow.
It cost them the price of a gun to get a new magazine.
Almost. The local place near me, when they have them, they charge $125 for a pre-1994 magazine.
I gotta get this one in. Were any of the brothers in Salt Lake students of Charlie? That's from Simon Says Crane.
Thanks, Tony. Oh my gosh.
No, what I was going to say, Feinstein's was looking to add an amendment to the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, and it would have made any semi-automatic shotgun with a tube that had held more than 5 as an assault shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have those. A semi-automatic shotgun that has a magazine that holds more than 5 rounds is considered a large capacity shotgun here in Massachusetts, and you can't have it with an FID card. You have to have the license to carry in order to possess that.
Wow.
I mean, your average 3-gun semi-auto shotgun.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Right.
if you're three gunning, you've got a handgun, which means you've got the license to carry already. So it's all redonkulous, man. I love how you guys look at me when I tell you all this stuff. You're like, how can you live there?
You know, and
Right.
what I'm
Like,
honestly
your
thinking
kids
is
have
you're
moved away
saying
now,
this.
Charlie, right?
One of them has.
Okay.
What I'm thinking is you're saying all this, Charlie, is it was late 70s, early 80s song. Hang on, help is on the way. Things will be changing for Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York. The last week is the tip of the iceberg. These states will be dragged into the 21st century, kicking and screaming, but they'll get there.
Thank goodness.
So, let's see here. Let's do this because that's the end of the DGUs. Let's take a break. We come back. We'll talk about what we've been doing in media. We'll shut the show down. We still got a chance of getting out of here by the bottom of the hour. Hang on, everybody. Right back, right after this final break. We're going to hear from JPFO.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong house raids.
Police! Search warrant! No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. What I'd like to do, as we normally do at this point, we talk about what we've done in media, what's coming up in media. What I want to do is, as I usually do, I start off with Rob. Rob, what's been going on over at Slowfax, and what do you want to promote, man?
The recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling is 135 pages. I read through it so that you don't have to. The highlight is that ordinary people must be able to carry a personal firearm in ordinary places where people congregate. Once you've cracked that nut, a lot of other things should come next. I wrote about it. The article is called One Unconstitutional Law Implicates Many Gun Control Regulations. It's on my slowfax.wordpress.com blog. John, let it eat.
Well, I have had a lot of blog posts since we were last on. There's the so-called Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which will reduce violence, and is portrayed as a compromise. It's actually a commitment, because we got nothing in the bill and we're sold out. Dianne Feinstein even tried to add an assault weapons ban to it, which might have sabotaged the bill. On the bright side, it didn't make it into the bill. That actually got an Instalanche from the Instapundit Glenn Reynolds, and I've had over 11,000 plus views on that one post. On the bright side, we won Bruin, And now every state will eventually be at least shall issue by 2023. Eventually. We also need to remember that big law is not our friend. On the heels of winning Bruin, Paul Clement and Aaron Murphy left Kirkland and Ellis because they were told no more gun cases, no more representing pro-gun side. We don't want to offend our corporate clients. Kirkland and Ellis is the largest law firm in the country by revenue. Big Law provides many pro bono hours to anti-gunners to defend gun control law. It is a shame they think so little of the Constitution. That and more is at onlygunsandmoney.com. Charlie, you've got an episode up and I hear.
Yes, I have a show coming out tomorrow with Evan Knappen, who is the premier firearm attorney in New Jersey. He actually lives up in New Hampshire, and I believe he practices there as well. We talked about constitutional carry versus permitless carry. We talked about permits versus licenses. We talked about assault firearms versus assault rifles. And we talked about some of the cases he's had, including someone who had a firearm from the 1600s, and the courts treated it like it was an evil black rifle. So that's going to be coming out tomorrow. And, just trying to keep up with everyone else. That's what I got. Paul, how about yourself?
Well, just doing Bullet and doing the Polite Society. Tomorrow, let me get my calendar up. I've got, starting Thursday of last week, normally I have one person joining me on the Bullet every day. Then we talk about the news of the day. Well, last Thursday I had both Rob and Amanda on because I wanted two heavy hitters on with me to talk about the Bruin decision. And then the following day, Friday, was Tom Walls. It was normal training Friday. Today I had Charlie and John Petrolino on with me. Tomorrow is Craig DeLuz and Teresa Einacker are going to be joining me. So we continue the tradition. Well, not tradition. We continue the short-term, I guess, tradition of two people joining me for the Bullet. But I think that ends tomorrow. For the rest of the week, it'll be just me and one other person for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But do please come join me, 5 p.m. Central Time. Again, the only time zone that matters. And we'll have the Bullet the rest of this week and noon on Saturday. By the way, if you didn't get a chance to watch it live, go back and watch the Bullet from this past Saturday. It was an absolute ton of fun. And we premiered a new gungram from Charlie. Well, a version of a gungram. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We had me doing very little shooting, but we had Beth Alcazar shoot. We had Tony Simon doing some shooting, and Paul was gracious enough to take one for the team and go shoot a Glock 18 for that video.
Yeah, the things I have to do, I sacrifice. I had to go shoot a full auto for this. I'm a giver. That's what I do, man.
Well, we appreciate it.
All right. Well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for contributing and commenting. And we will see you next time.